वेलकम टू ऑल अबाउट स्टार्टअप्स इनसाइड द इकोसिस्टम। यहाँ हम मिलते हैं उन इनोवेटर से, एंटरप्रेन्योर से और चेंज मेकर से जो फ्यूचर को शेप कर रहे हैं। हमारे आज के गेस्ट हैं बकेट ट्रैवल की फाउंडर गरिमा पांडे। बकेट ट्रैवल का विजन है कि लोग अपनी बकेट लिस्ट को रियलिटी में बदल सकें और गरिमा की लीडरशिप में ये स्टार्टअप नई ऊंचाइयां छू रहा है और नए डायमेंशन एक्सप्लोर कर रहा है। आज हम जानेंगे उनकी स्टार्टअप जर्नी के चैलेंजेस, लर्निंग्स और स्ट्रगल्स के बारे में, और हम बात करेंगे ट्रैवल इंडस्ट्री में होने वाले नए इनोवेशन और अपॉर्चुनिटीज की।
So, hi Garima, thank you for joining us. For the viewers that are watching, can you please elaborate what Garima Pandey does and maybe some light on your journey, what you have done, so that they can understand you better?
Thank you. Thank you so much, Puneet, for inviting me. Always a pleasure talking to you. And I'm going to treat this as just another conversation between you and me. In hindsight, if we would have started recording 2 3 years ago, since we've known each other, I don't know where we would have gone. But hi everyone, I'm Garima. I run a travel tech startup I'm building it rather, called Bukit.Travel. That's Bukit.Travel. This is my second startup. Just started about a few months ago along with my co-founder Akshat, who also happens to be my first cousin. Our previous startup for around 6 years was focusing in solo women travel. And that was wrapped around things to do and activities on holidays. Now we've sort of pivoted to creating a marketplace where one can manage, discover and book activities and experiences seamlessly. So that's where my journey has been. Prior to this, I worked in the corporate for nearly a decade, between a bank and a fintech company. I have done roles in sales, moved to marketing and branding, and then I was in my last corporate role, I was heading a corporate marketing team for a fintech company. And that's been my journey, and I completely sort of shifted gears from finance and tech to travel.
Amazing journey, I guess, from banker to sales and marketing, consulting, and now an entrepreneur. One difficult question, I guess you might be getting that a lot. Maybe influence of Shark Tank or people, maybe the startup boom. People working a 9 to 5 job are now thinking of doing their own startup, but that rat race is very difficult to break, right?
Yeah.
That chain is very difficult to break. So how you overcome that? Because everyone, maybe our listeners also listening to this, are thinking of doing something of their own. Every Indian has an idea, because India, is a land of problems. And when I say problems,
Absolutely.
India is a land of opportunities too. So there are a lot of people who have been sitting in their cubicles thinking of 5 ideas a day, planning, thinking of taking a leap, right? So what does motivated you and how you did it?
That's a great question. I would take it in two parts. One, my idea of starting this were conversations that Akshat and I had over and over again about a particular problem that we were really passionate about, and we felt it ourselves, in terms of, when you go and you travel, we both like to do things. It was very difficult to discover and find things to do, find trusted partners. And I think those conversations, they were notes exchanged about travel, and those led to some conversations which led to us starting. None of us quit because we didn't like 9 to 5, or we didn't like the people we worked with, or we didn't like the industries. We loved what we were doing, we loved our corporate jobs. And the funny thing is, whether you like it or not, the moment your startups, sort of your startup gets the rhythm to grow, and you're growing, you will hire people and you will put a 9 to 5 to it. So ultimately, unless you have a dream of being that one person and you want to work at your own pace, you will have to put structure, you will have to put team, you will have to put timings. And so 9 to 5 just shouldn't be the reason at all. And if I get a do-over, we're doing a second startup, and I think we're doing a lot of things differently, because in the last 6 or 5 6 years, the entire startup ecosystem has changed massively. We there was a notion of wanting to do everything yourself. We started by hum website banayenge, we will do this, we will I need to know everything, I need to do everything from sales to marketing to building to operations and everything. I think in the new format, if there are people who are in jobs and want to try something, one, the cost of trying is very low. The cost of finding whether there is intent in the market, whether your product or your idea will work, that cost of testing is very low, and the ecosystem is robust for you to just try out multiple things. So if somebody has five ideas, don't even, kind of filter one and try all five. You never know what is working. So that cost of trying is very different. The way you can reach to a customer is very different. You can understand intent very differently. So yeah, I mean, I would say that in the new avatar, people are also more approachable. Like something like what you have started did not exist 5 6 years ago. I could not like look at some early stage founders. Either they were very big stories, of startups which were not startups anymore. They were full-fledged companies. In travel, like 5 6 years ago, if I had a case study, I would have a case study on Make My Trip. It's not a startup, it's a full-fledged organization. They were only success stories. So the best way that you can learn is from where did someone probably take more time, where did someone go wrong, so called the word failure or mistakes. How can you learn that, how can you hack it out? I don't think those conversations were available. Now they are. So I think people can try. I would also urge in a way that I genuinely feel that there will be a time, and it's, I think, already happening in a way from investor perspective in terms of consolidation in the industry, that we don't need more and more startups. We need solutions. If there is somebody who is already trying to do something and you can find a way to partner, because there is a whole ecosystem which is trying to find co-founders. You may be good at marketing and sales, somebody is good at product, and your idea was to create something like that. Find that synergy and try and partner with people and build together. I think there has to be more collaboration in today's day and time, and like I said, the cost of it is very minimal. Earlier, even companies have that bandwidth to give you, to say that okay, Saturday Sunday you're working on a passion project, you're trying to do something different, you go ahead and do it. It's not a taboo anymore. Maybe like 5 10 years ago, people could not be out in the open and say that, I'm thinking about something. You would be highly discouraged. So I think that has massively changed in the last few years.
मुझे उम्मीद है आप सबको ये एपिसोड पसंद आ रहा होगा। आगे बढ़ने से पहले मैं बताना चाहता हूँ आपको द पॉडकास्ट प्रोग्राम बाय स्कव स्टूडियो। ये प्रोग्राम एंटरप्रेन्योर्स, कोचेस और कंटेंट क्रिएटर्स को हेल्प करता है पॉडकास्ट स्क्रैच से स्टार्ट करने में। और ये पॉडकास्ट भी इन्हीं की मदद से प्रोड्यूस किया गया है, जिसकी लिंक डिस्क्रिप्शन में है। अब वापस एपिसोड पर।
I guess you correctly mentioned about that the price of talent or maybe price of skill set has also reduced a lot. What I see and what I hear a lot is there are a lot of founders, early stage founders who wanted to do everything on their own. They are building their website, they are doing the sales, they are doing the marketing. At one point during the research time, it is fine. But I guess when the company grows and when you want to scale it up, when you want to grow it up, you have to get out in the market, get a co-founder, get a good team who have different skill set. That is when big companies are made. That is when big startups are made, right? You mentioned about travel industry. So, what is your vision as a broad? Bucket travel for us is a very niche in the travel industry, right? So, what is your vision of the travel industry maybe in the next 5 years? Because the time before COVID and now post COVID is different for the travel industry, and how you see the time, maybe next 5 years.
One, of course, I think use of more technology and AI. It is still an industry which operates with very traditional agents and destination management company and 3 4 people in between. So maybe, like, of course, use of more AI and VR to be able to discover, to be able to book, to be able to change that experience. You still have somebody who's creating itineraries, absolutely can be done by artificial intelligence completely. In terms of giving out what choices you want, you don't need, and people want less conversation and more kind of convenience, right? So I think certainly use of these two in a big way, because travel is one industry where it's still, tech has not completely, still not disrupted the industry. We are still talking about fastest, cheapest, when we are searching. I think people's choices have moved to a different level, and that has to kind of change. Like you rightly said, post COVID, and part of the reason for us to exit Wandering Jane in a way and to move into Bukit was because that people now are traveling for, what do I need to do, what do I like to do on holidays. It is not about because the other guy in my next door cubicle went to Meghalaya, so I will go to Meghalaya. Do I like to hike? Do I like nature? Do I want to be sitting next to a water stream, read a book? People are more aware of their choices, and of course social media, good content on OTT, and there are a whole lot of things that have, and of course pandemic, and that time by yourself to understand what you really like. And it's not about the next gram picture, it's also about what I like to do, has really changed. Fitness, adventure travel has gone up, fitness has gone up, and I think they are both interlinked in some way. People are traveling to different cities, countries, to run marathons, to cycle, to hike, and all of these things are very new, especially in India. And we are seeing that difference as well. Maybe 5 years ago, you know if somebody had, like, if I look at it from a percent and I divide the travel spend in three buckets of transportation and travel, in stay and in experiences was only about 10 to 20% of the entire pie. A lot of travel was all about the view of your stay, or how comfortable the flight is, or how fast you can get somewhere. That has completely changed to, what do I do there? I may go to the same destination. We are seeing repeat travel in one destination multiple times. It's not like people want to explore and say, wahan to main chale gaya and I've done that tick mark and now I need to go to the next new place. People also want to go and do more things in a certain place. So that again is a very very interesting shift, and in 5 years I think this will all, like, it's already moved from that 10-20% to about a 40% of travel, where people want to save and kind of do more in a destination. I see certainly more of that happening. People wanting to spend on experiences, picking their destination based on what they like to do. If I like to dive, I will pick destinations where I can go scuba dive. If I like to hike, I will pick destinations rather than destination forward and destination being pushed by ads. So I think that is certainly one major change that is happening. And like, from an industry perspective, I think definitely more tech in terms of VR, which is not being used too much in travel. Like, from a retail perspective, AI moving away from conversation to actually helping, aiding you, select, book, discover places, discover new things to do, understanding that hyper personalization that everybody is anyway talking about in terms of industry, certainly will be a part of travel. Another thing I think is also, which is a lot of people in general are talking about, is just saving the ecology, or talking about sustainability while traveling. And I see that certainly, that because people are choosing a lot of these experiences, and they are dependent on the ecology, the environment, and things to do, when you observe more when you're traveling. I think people will be a little more conscious when they are traveling, which will also push other places. And you would have seen that, right? Like, in the last so many years, all big hotels have started bottling water rather than giving plastic. It seems like a small switch, but if you look at it from an industry perspective, it's a habit change. People are traveling with their water bottles, people want to refill it. So I think more of, at a third realm of things in terms of sustainability, will also definitely come.
We have seen a trend every summer vacation or winter vacations. People tend to go to Shimla, Manali, or maybe Goa for that matter, right? But now people are exploring as well. With social media coming at space, people are now have knowledge about new places, right? And now, as you correctly mentioned, people are now choosing what they want to do rather than just going with the flow. So you mentioned about wandering, Jen, and I want to talk about that also because that was your time when you left your job and started your entrepreneurial journey. So I wanted to emphasize on that because I can say major step that people are afraid to take, right? And what are your initial few steps?
Everybody has a different step. I know that there is some story of, you know uh, I had to do this, or I couldn't do anything else, and that fear motivated. That's not a motivation for me. What motivates me is peace. I had to work for those many years, save x amount, because that was my moat. My moat was my credibility, my, because I knew that I'll be hireable. Hence, whatever I do, I will do with 100% commitment, and I won't take desperate measures to get somewhere. I'm just trying to recall back as to why and when I took that step. I was very clear that this is something that I'm trying, and if I don't try, I'm still very hireable by the industry. My credibility of almost a decade of work experience and where I have built and the network that I've built is not going anywhere. And I think that gave me more peace rather than being fearful about it. Like, fear, like I said, is not my motivation, but everybody works differently. The problem that we were trying to solve was to build an ecosystem for solo women travelers to be able to travel in India freely, safely, and also in parallel creating an ecosystem where locals are hosts and local activity providers come in. So we didn't work with agents. We worked with direct providers, direct homestay owners, direct scuba divers, hikers, surfers, yoga practitioners, experienced providers directly, local experts as we would call them. We were building that experience for women via them for the female travelers. There was a huge gap at that point, and I think in the last 5 6 years that gap has been filled by a lot other companies that came up after us, by a lot of influencers, by a lot of content on travel. Women traveling with their friends and alone was never a piece of content 10 years ago. All this is very new in terms of whatever is happening on OTT and in terms of conversation as well. So I think at that point, that gap, and Akshat and I traveled, and we both like to dive. We surf, we also spent time hiking, and we saw so many solo travelers come in from overseas into India, but very few Indian women travelers, feeling that they have the freedom to go by themselves. And that was very glaring. And I think time and again, that conversation went to why, where is the gap? How can we bridge that gap? And then we got this local expert to say that, if people know somebody, that trust gets automatically built and people want to travel. And that's how people started traveling. Your first few travels were to your uncle who was in some exotic location, or who could see five things around, or your friend who's somewhere. It's very simple in terms of psychology, but we just wanted to bridge that gap because that problem seemed very glaring. That problem also became very personal, to say that why aren't Indian women being able to enjoy a Kerala or a Goa or a Himachal or Leh Ladakh with as much ease? Only if we get a good, trusted, verified local expert, this entire piece can be stitched very well. So I think it was just that problem that just kept coming. Like, I think when you are trying to solve something and you have built startups, you have helped so many people build their startup. Once you start looking at a problem, you will constantly be hit by that problem, right? And I think the thing about an entrepreneurial mindset is that till the time you don't find the solution, it'll keep coming to you. You will keep wanting to do that. So I think this was just one of those things to say that, you travel overseas, you travel to an Australia or a Europe, and that solo travel ecosystem is so robust, and why can't we build the same in India? And that was the step in that direction. But from a personal perspective, to take that leap of faith for him or me was just the credibility we had, and to say that we weren't fearful that either we have to do this or nothing. So there were no desperate measures, there was no pressure to say that, oh, we need to change things constantly. If there was something that is thought after, we could still run an ethical practice and not be under the pressure to do things just to tweak, and we could stay true to whatever we were trying to build. Because I think there was no fear. We were very clear that this is a contribution that we are making to the industry, and no matter what, we'll still be hireable. And that was my moat.
But I just wanted to understand if a guy who was a student, maybe a aspiring entrepreneur in a tier two, tier three city, wanted to build a travel startup, what are the few steps that he or she should take?
I think if it's a student, I would highly recommend internships, because you get a lot of insight into the assumptions that you're making. I think you learn a lot when you are constantly talking to somebody else who's been in the industry for a little longer, who's trying to solve some problem or the other. There are a lot of travel startups today who are trying to do different things and who are trying to Some are trying to fix the mobility piece, some are trying to fix, like us, the experience piece, some are still trying to consolidate the stay and the staying experience piece. And in all of this, I think if you're if if there are students listening to this, please intern, please try and learn in that internship and find a genuine gap. I would also say what I said earlier, that if you think somebody is already building what you're doing, rather than thinking that you have thought of this and oh, someone else has also thought of this and we will build in separate directions, try and collaborate. That will really help, because imagine if two three people who are equally passionate about the same problem come together, the solution is that much quicker, faster, easier, cheaper, better. So I would say that someone who's not a student can, again, like I said, I think can collaborate, can intern, can learn. There are, unfortunately, data points in travel are not very prudent. So I wish I had a playbook for it, but I'm also still building. But I can tell you some of the struggles that I have. Like, data is not very clearly visible. It is very opaque. It is not collected in some of the cases. For instance, we record that X number of international tourists land into India, and we know the 5-10 ports that they're coming in from, whether they go to Goa or they go to Delhi or wherever they are going. What do they do there? Average length of stay, very vague. I mean, there is no proper data. What kind of things do they like? Whether they are staying in 3 stars or 5 stars. Like, you don't have this data. Like, you have data at a very superficial level in travel, so it just becomes. And I feel anybody who's starting, if the data is a little opaque, or you don't have, or there is no collection of that data, a lot of that is you learning along the way. So I would say patience. Like, you need to know that this is not something that you can build in 2 months, 3 months, 1 year. You'll have to learn a lot. Akshat and I did not come from the industry, so I think what helped maybe is that we were very open to learning. We came with a completely open mindset, that and I think the first few days we were only talking to potential customers, whether what would you like to do. So we learned a lot from there. We built a lot with what they were telling us, and we were learning. As we are building another startup in travel, even though we've been in the industry for 6 years, we're still learning. So because there is a lot of I think lack of data, it's not clearly available, and the market has become more heterogeneous to make it more complicated. What I mean by saying that is, it's not a straight playbook to say that someone who will do, let's say, because today choices are changing, people are trying different things. Adventure travel as an industry has gone up 495% in the last 2 years. That means there is a whole influx of new people trying it. So for me to imagine that, okay, who will try bungee jumping is someone who's 25, is an urban Gen Z. I may be completely wrong. I mean, my range is from an 18-year-old to a 45-year-old. It's a very wide market. And those choices are very different. Like, if I look at the last few bookings that we have done via Bukit, we have customers from 22 years old to 48 years old, from Raipur, from Bareilly, from Delhi, from Hoshiarpur, from Bangalore, and it's insane. Like, it's that much more complex. Plus, there is no other data which is backing. So a lot of that is, I think, be open to learning if someone has a travel startup and if wants to start, and if you haven't started, please work, collaborate with 5-10 people, do internships, learn from there. It'll help you in your journey. Like, if I needed a do over, I would probably do that. I would probably just spend weekends just working for another, just trying to understand from someone else as to what pain points they have, what they are doing. I don't know if that makes sense to you. Does that?
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense. I completely makes sense. I just wanted to add on to this. Like, I remember our conversation where you, me, and Akshat had before, regarding the possibility of integrating AR, VR in Wandering Jane, and maybe, shifting altogether our customer segment to maybe elderly, or maybe tourists. Because of COVID, they could not travel, so maybe through VR we can give them an experience. As a founders, I really commend you both that you were so open to changes, because I have been interacting with a lot of founders, and they are very, restricted towards change. And the solution what they have developed, they see this is the only the right way to do it, right? And maybe eventually the idea fails, they get back to their job, or maybe they start something new, fresh, rather than pivoting on the last idea or the startup that they are working, right? And when it comes to pivoting, I really want to put a emphasis on how we pivoted, from Wandering Jane to Bukit.Travel. Throw some light on that.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. And I think just further to what you have said, one, I think it's the need of the hour because the pace at which consumer behavior, mindset is changing and technology is changing. If you cannot cope with those changes and you cannot cope with changing needs of customers, you are anyway setting up a recipe for failure. It's not like I have a huge company or I'm highly successful in that. I'm still trying to hack it out and get somewhere and get operating and working on a day-to-day basis. But I think what maybe also helped is because Akshat comes from a sales and operations background. I come from a marketing and branding background, and I think we were always customer first, to say that if customers are moving in that direction, we need to go there. And it's not like we have built this and now I just need to sell what I'm selling. So I think that was just the way we built and the way probably we are wired. Coming to the pivot was exactly that story. Like, I think in the pandemic, we were one of the first, of course, because we were a very small outfit. Everything shut down on the 19th, and we did our first online experience, paid experiences. Our experiences were priced between 550 to 3,500. The first paid experience we did was, I think on 24th or 25th of March, while everything shut down on 19th and 20th of March. We were that quick because we were that connected with our local experts. And we did those experiences, which were things like learning flamenco dance from Spain over a live class, to understanding the art of mixology and whiskey tasting and cocktail making. We partnered with this company called Diageo, and we got some of their experts from Scotland to teach that. Pitching a tent, yoga from Rishikesh, sound healing from Thailand. Every weekend, Saturday, Sunday, we ran anywhere between 2 to 4 such live experiences that people could actually experience in person if they were traveling. But because they couldn't, we were doing that online. And hence that thought process of, will this be a way of life? And we were also relying a lot on cheap VR glasses, which have still not come into retail. But I remember we had that conversation saying, "Ek saal mein to ye aa jayega." But I think that market kind of fizzled out in a way post pandemic, because people started, doing different things. But at that point, had that extended, I think, had the pandemic extended for another 6 7 months, I think even companies would have pushed for cheaper VR glasses, and there would have been providers like us which would have pushed for that experience, and we would have had that match there. I think that post pandemic, we saw that a lot of people, like, our sales call pre-pandemic would last like about an hour. Every, like, that traveler would like to know a lot in detail, would like to get into a lot of conversation. We did a three-way call with our local expert and all of that. One of the first things we saw that customers started doing is messages and short messages. Send me details, okay, this looks good, book it. So I think it was that conversation shrank. So I think that need to enable better technology, make it more productized than a service. Those feelers started coming from there. A lot of our travelers very clearly started doing more things. Like, pre-pandemic, we had to kind of sell this concept of activity based travel, experience based travel. If you're going there, you should try these things, and we would hard sell those things. Those started coming in as clear needs from the customer, saying, what, guys, I have booked my stay here. Since you know the local experts, can you tell me what can I do, the in the 4 days or 3 days that I'm in this destination? And I would like to do all those experiences. And this was one in every 4 or 5 conversations that we were having. 4 out of 5 conversations were less than 5 minutes, and they just wanted links so that they can book. So I think that product, technology, local expertise in terms of experiences, which was anyway our forte, came out very, very strong. So much so that some of the influencers travel influencers who have traveled with us. We haven't hired them as influencers, they have been our paid customers, and some of the biggest of them, solo women travelers, have traveled with us and have loved our experiences. They were on paid projects by bigger companies, and they started reaching out to us saying, hotel is booked, everything is booked, boat is booked, chopper is booked. I just need to know what experiences I can do, because you guys are the best at local experts. Can you help me build that? All of this literally, coming together was a clear indication of probably a small percent of the market, but people moving to a productized way of building experiences. So what we are building in India already exists in geography in the West, already exists in Singapore, and essentially what we are doing is we are urban companizing, if I can say that, activities and experiences. People can go to their geography, look at their interest, whether it's adventure, culture, travel, religion, or music, or food and beverage. They can filter out activities as per their need. They can book a slot directly with the provider. The provider accepts, and it's the loop is complete, pretty much like what probably, like I said, urban company is pretty much what that company has done with blue collar or odd jobs that you need in the house. So that is what we were, our aim is to build that, and we are still in that process. We've experimented in a few geographies and it's gone well. I think that need that people want to do things in their holidays, want to use more technology and want less of service, more of product, and they saw us as experts who can curate, and who can help them discover these activities with trusted partners, came in as three strong points again and again, month after month, and hence we moved to this.
In your conversation, I guess you mentioned 2 3 points, which is, I guess, your USPs, right? Your personalized catering to those tailored needs, right? That is what we have, because before that we have a lot of traveling platforms. We have lot of platforms which you provide the basic services, like maybe hiking, your maybe traveling, your hiking facilities are there, scuba diving, which are more available in the market. Maybe some niche activities which are specifically there, uh, live on your platform, yeah, only on your platform, right?
Yeah, we are also trying to digitize the usual activities which are available, but customers don't find authenticity in those activities. For instance, if you're going on the street of Goa and you're looking for someone to take you kayaking, every third person will tell you, I can do that for you. How do you find that authenticity? How do you find which is the right price? So we are also digitizing the regular activities that people do to make it more available, make it simple, slot it out so that your time is saved. Also, if you have any cancellation, your money is secured. We refund that if you haven't taken the activity, and we kind of close that loop there. And of course, there are some exclusive niche activities which you wouldn't find elsewhere as well. So essentially, we want to be the one stop shop for all things to do in your holiday.
Maybe let's just make shift a little with a conversation. Let's not talk about Bukit.Travel or the startup that we are building. Let's now talk about what Garima is doing. So how do you maintain your the work life balance? That the bigger question what everyone is talking about, even for a 9 to 5 job, or if you are doing a startup, you're doing a lot of things all together, right?
Yeah.
There is no time limit. There is at the initial days, you are the salesperson who are picking up the call and do the customer services as well, right? How are you coping with this? How are you balancing your life and the startup?
I don't know why people say that, especially in initial days they are so busy that they don't have time to breathe. I, in fact, found so much time that I had to put a routine to it, because either you can, and I also feel that if you don't manage your time, and I felt it in my 9 to 5 job as well. There were people in the 9 to 5 who will do a 9 to 9. There are people who do 9 to 9 in a 9 to 5. I think that is a recipe for burnout, for inefficiency, and for frustration, and it doesn't allow you to go back, think, and be quick in decision making. You would, and I'm not saying, look, there are of course days where 7 days, 10 days straight, where you will have to put in 14, 15, 16 hours, whether it is a corporate, whether it is your startup. But in a normal day, in a normal, out of 365 days, let's say there will be 70 days which will be like that, or let's say there'll be 100 days. But what about the other 265 days? There will be your normal days. I mean, I am at least a person who loves routine, who thrives on routine. And because I can do, I like to, I am quite high and big on fitness. I love to run, I love to do yoga, I love to lift weights, I am learning golf. Every year I try and pick up a new hobby to kind of keep myself in balance, and that learning, I'll tell you what, I think that learning also helps me be learning for my own startup as well. It helps me be more observant. It helps me with my learning attitude that I constantly have, trying to pick up things and, pulses, and, kind of trying to get there. I think, and I'll speak for both Akshat and I think like routine, sacrosanct, nutrition. I think you need it. And it's not rocket science. I think it's like third standard or fourth standard science. Healthy mind, healthy body, balance, food, and these are all things that we learned when we were literally in third standard, of waking up at a certain time. You have that productive, you have that golden hour of productivity. It is true. If you try and do something at a certain hour, you will probably do it in half an hour, or 15 minutes. Otherwise you'll spend the whole day trying to solve that problem and you wouldn't get anywhere. So I think, I genuinely feel you work hard. All of us need to work hard. There is no shortcut to it. You are working hard. I'm working hard. But you need to you need to realize that you will only be able to work hard if your body and mind is in the right sort of avatar to do that. If that means to keep your sanity, for some people they love music, for some people they like to cook. I don't like to cook, but for some people cooking is therapy. For some people spending time with their pets is therapy. For some people spending time, going to religious places is recreational. But please do spend time with your family, spend time with your friends, build that network. In one case, all entrepreneurs are saying build your network, it is very lonely. And then if you don't get out of your screen and you don't meet people, or you meet people and you just exchange cards, that's not networking. You need to spend time, you need to spend quality time with people, you need to unwind, you need to talk things, in a different stratosphere. You need to spend time with people to be able, that network to be able to be useful for you, right, if at all. So I think like all of that is important. Like find balance, which is why what I started the conversation with. Everybody keeps saying 9 to 5, 9 to 5. Ultimately आप एक schedule बनाओगे, maybe you do maybe you do 11 to 10, for all you know. But you will make a time where you work, you will make a time where you unwind, relax. And people talk about outsiders perspective. You need to step out, you need to zoom out to see the problem. All of that only happens once you do other things. Another thing I would like to say is that it doesn't mean that I shut down. It doesn't mean that I'm not reachable or nobody can call. No, not at all. If a customer calls me at 12 a.m. at night and that has happened, I will take it and I will be equally involved in it. But it just means that because I'm doing other things, it keeps me sane. And it gives me that peace to be able to deal with that problem in the best possible way.
That is what is very important, just to make a disciplined like mindset also, because the student founders, maybe what they have seen in the web series nowadays, it says is building a startup is, you have to just work 24/7, sleep less, fail fast, work more. Right? Those quotes has been taken very seriously. I have seen a lot of students, founders who have burned out because of their daily lifestyle. I have been mentoring a startup who has you know every week a different sleep cycle, because for our meetings, the usual meeting that we do in the morning have to be shifted in the late evenings, and sometimes we have taken in the 11 or 12 in the night, because his sleep cycle was completely changed. A lot of founders have like done a cutoff from their family, friends, right? Gone into their cave. That we are building a startup. We'll come out of the cave after 45 days.
Yeah.
So we have seen this kind of structure because at where I am, I have been interacting with all sort of founders,
Yeah.
and this is the trend which is I'm a little worried about, that the shift towards startups and the shifts that the new generation is going ahead. I don't know. We need someone who give them a routine hack. So
Yeah.
what should they
No,
do
I
or what should they
agree.
not?
The funny thing is all these people will are also then filling gratitude journals and are going consciously to networking events, do that. Like that has to be a part of your daily routine. It can't be 45 days I will work and then 2 days I will meet people and network and then another, it does. I don't think it works like that. Maybe for some people it does, but in my opinion, I think that will lead to a burnout. And what is the joy of building something if you cannot build and share with people around you? If your family, your friends, your close people are not able to, I feel people will have, because founder mental health is another very big problem that everybody is talking about in all forums. But if you look at it that way, if you're not, it'll be wrong, because if some people who know me watch this, I don't sleep enough and I'm trying to work on it. I don't sleep much, but I'm conscious about it. I'm trying to work on it. But I think these are things like, if you don't have any other hobby, if there is nothing else that drives you, because there are days where your business and all the things that you're looking at and all data that you're looking at will disappoint you and will make you feel as to why am I doing this? I could have done one, two, three, four, five different things. Why this? And like you said, people give up and they want to go to the next job, and there is nothing wrong in it. Maybe you and I also do it at some point. I'm not shaming that, but I'm just saying that when do you do it? And at what position do you do it because the market is not moving and you've tried everything, or you do it out of frustration, is my question, right? Like I feel it's also because you kind of because you're not talking to people. Everybody needs those 3 a.m friends. I feel every single founder should have 3 4 types of friends. One person who's a cheerleader, no matter what you do, will say, "Arey, this is the best idea." You are the best. You will do well no matter what. You also need a person on the other end who will tell you, "Please don't waste your time." you know Give me your CV, I will put you somewhere, don't do all this. And then you need 3 4 people in between who are realist. And I think the merit is to spend time here, to sit with people who will say, acha theek hai, what is the problem, let's discuss. I don't have an answer to you, but let's figure it out together. Let me do that research and help you. Let me connect you with somebody. And all of that only happens once you share. If you are, people talk about entrepreneurship is a lonely journey, but if you have decided to be lonely, it will of course be a lonely journey. I mean, you're not leaving room for other people, to come in. And like I said, it's third standard science. It's not rocket science for anybody to find a routine, to find things to do. There are all these fancy watches which we are wearing, which will tell you clock X steps a day, exercise at least 3 days a week, VOR max and sleep cycle. And every day there is a new product in the market, from a ring to a pendant to an earring, which is, talking about your health. It's imperative that we take care. And I think a part of anything that we are doing, you need to be there for your family, for your friends. And what's the point? Otherwise you are like 50 something and you realize that, oh my god, I don't know how long I'm going to live. And I don't find any joy in that personally.
I completely agree that I have made money, but I have not made spent time with my family. What do I do?
Yeah.
See,
Yeah.
that
Or
was
maybe
a
because
loop.
I haven't
Like,
made enough money, that's why I'm able to say that. maybe maybe if I do that, then I'd be like, kya farak padta hai? Jaane do, family ko aati rahegi. I'll get a new one.
well, again, maybe I'll take you to Bukit.Travel, and maybe I just wanted to ask, what is one of your that proudest moment, you know, for Garima, building in the journey of Bukit.Travel?
Well, with this startup, it's fairly new. We are only a few months old. But in that, we have cracked a few partnerships, which was very interesting. Car operators, or with some hostel chains or hotels, to recognized to partner. I think that was quite a wow. For people to come back to us who have booked an experience, let's say in a certain geography, and wanting to say that it was so simple, I want to book for somebody else. I think personally, what wows me every day, or what's motivation, is people, and that their references. Advocacy for a marketer is, I think, the utmost nirvana, right? That if someone has used and is able to say that, oh, it was so good, I'm going to refer somebody else. So every time we have that moment, I think it's fantastic. Like I said, it's only been a few months, so perhaps that ultra wow moment I'm still waiting for. But with Wandering Jane, I think personally that moved me was the number of messages personally I got from travelers at a very personal level. Like, we've got messages which have said that the journey has made me more confident, or I see myself differently. And those are not things that you hear in business. I mean, you're used to hearing this was good, everything was well arranged, 10 on 10 for that. But I think when, if you were able to connect with an emotion with somebody, is truly fantastic. So I think that was very, very empowering. The fact that we could sustain with online classes in the pandemic, where probably an easy journey for Rakshat and me would have been to shut it and go find the next hybrid job or remote job possible, was, I think something. I think that also sealed the deal for us, that we are in it together. This startup or something else, we will continue to build together, because that was a tough time for, I think, everybody. So yeah, I think personally that moment, was very different. And I think time and again, like your story covered us, or Better India covered us, and Business World has covered us a couple of times, Vogue has covered us, and I think these are all unpaid sort of media attention that we've got. And I'll be honest, I think that certainly makes you feel good, that certainly makes you feel like you're making a difference and you're doing something. It motivates you. I think days where you don't find motivation in your otherwise day, and everything is so frustrating, and you feel like the whole system is falling apart, things like these kind of hold the fort and say, no, try something, put your head down, try something new, chop wood, go ahead.
Correctly said, it motivates you, it validates the model that we are doing. You know,
Absolutely.
I guess we have talked a lot, Garima. Thank you so much for being a sport and agreeing to come for the podcast. Your journey is more than inspiring, which there are lessons which teach us about pivoting, not losing hope, making a schedule for life, that, and entrepreneur life also matters. A disciplined life would help us becoming more productive, and that we have seen reflecting in your journey. So thank you so much for being with us. A last question, before we end this: what advice that you want to give to our future entrepreneurs, our aspiring entrepreneurs who are watching?
Yeah, I mean, just try. Like I said, the cost of trying new ideas today is very minimal. Try, find partners, find mentors, talk to people. I think everybody is so approachable in the ecosystem. I've not faced a roadblock where like, I've written to somebody on LinkedIn and somebody has blocked me. It's never happened. They've always given time. People are always open to ideas. There are so many times, when you're thinking something and you just want to articulate and you want it to be something solid. I mean, there are so many times that I've picked up the phone and I've just called you, say, hey, I'm thinking something new, up free, okay, let's get on to a call. And it's as simple as that. I think people should certainly do more and more of that. So certainly, I mean, try, just take the plunge and try. And something else which I feel personally, that build build something. Idea of a startup is not to raise money, it's to build. Entrepreneurship is about finding the gap and building rather than raising money. And I see that as a little bit of a gap. Like, a lot of organizations, a lot of institutes, a lot of colleges are focused towards pitch deck and pitching and funding, which is not, I think, what entrepreneurship is about. It is about really building something of value to somebody, finding the customer, giving them that value. So focus there and try, like, try as many ideas you have.
Money is a derivative, right?
Absolutely. But you agree, right? Like, I think the whole ecosystem is moving towards, pitching and raising. And while I think entrepreneurship is a lot more about
Because
trying and
all these things are
learning.
fancified, because media has fancified these things. We all get to hear that these startups raised this million x amount of $1 million from this investors. We have never talked about students or aspiring entrepreneurs or maybe big startups even who are doing working at the grassroots level, who are actually making the shift. Nobody is talking about them. We just talk about the fundings because it has been glorified like that in the media as well. It tends to attract attention of everyone.
तो ये था हमारा आज का एपिसोड गरिमा पांडे के साथ। इनकी जर्नी उन सब के लिए इंस्पिरेशन है जो अपने पैशन को एक सक्सेसफुल वेंचर में बदलना चाहते हैं। अगर आपको ये एपिसोड पसंद आया हो तो हमारे चैनल को सब्सक्राइब करें और अपने दोस्तों के साथ शेयर करें। क्या पता कब कौन कहाँ इंस्पायर हो जाए।